Hello. Hope you all are having a great day. Hop on here and let me know how your day's going. Tell me what time you broke your fast this morning and tell me how many hours of a fast that it was for you. Today we're going to start talking about the macronutrients because as you know, starting next week we're going to start tracking our macros or tracking our macronutrients. So there are 3 macronutrients. A macro is short for macronutrients. There are 3: protein, fats, and carbs. So you may not have ever heard of macros or tracking macros, but I know you've heard of protein, fats, and carbs. So instead of counting calories in the faster way, we count macros and we make sure we hit our macro goals each day. So later on this week, you're going to figure out what your 3 macro goals are: how much protein, how much fat, and how much carbs you need to be eating every day. So today we're going to just talk about protein. What is protein? Why do we need it? How much do we need? And where can we find it? What kind of foods contain the most amount of protein? So first of all, protein is the building blocks of our muscles. So the more that we consume protein and the more we strength train, the more muscle we will be able to put on. This is very important for us women because starting around age 30 to 35, we will start to lose 5% of our muscle mass every decade. That may not sound like very much, but if you think about that from age 30 to age 80, that's 5 decades. You could lose 25% of your muscle mass between age 30 and 80. So when you think of it that way, then you can see how important this is. And we know that having more muscle on your body, especially as you age, is going to help prevent sicknesses. More muscle mass on your body is correlated with less instances of being sick. And when you do get sick, you recover quicker. Having more protein on your body is also correlated with, as you age, not falling and breaking a hip. You know, as you age, having a bad fall could easily result in a broken bone. But the more muscle mass you have on your body, the less likely that is to happen. Also, things like just overall general health and fitness and body composition, having muscle is going to be super beneficial there. So a lot of times we think, well, I don't want to build muscle. I don't want to get bulky. I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. I just want to tone up. Well, when you say tone up, what that means is build muscle and lose body fat and look lean. So you're not going to get bulky. You're not going to all of a sudden start looking like a bodybuilder. That takes years and years of being intentional. You're just going to tone up. You're going to look lean. You're going to have less body fat and more muscle. Having muscle also boosts your metabolism. It's the best way to boost your metabolism because the more muscle you have, the more calories you will burn at rest. So the more muscle you have on your body, the more your metabolism, your metabolic rate will increase. Okay, so those are some of the reasons why we want to focus on protein. Protein is the #1 macronutrient that women are lacking. You'll discover this later this week and next week when you start tracking your food. You may discover that you're only eating a third or half the amount of protein that your body needs. Almost 100% of women that come to work with me are under eating on protein, myself included. When I started the faster way, and even now, when I stop tracking my food and stop paying attention, I tend to overconsume fats and carbs and underconsume protein, just because fats and carbs are yummier and they're also easier to access. Whereas protein takes a little bit of prior planning. You have to cook it. You have to make sure it's cooked all the way through. You have to refrigerate it, all that stuff. It just makes it a little bit more difficult to hit your protein goal. So that's just something to be aware of, that you're probably under eating protein and it's going to be a learning curve figuring out how to increase that protein throughout the day. So there are 2 ways you can get protein. There are animal protein, animal sources, and plant-based sources. So some sources of protein are just going to be straight up protein. Other sources are going to come with a little bit of fat or a little bit of carbs. So your animal-based sources of protein will likely come with a little bit of fat or even a lot of fat, depending on what animal it comes from. And then I won't hold up that finger, then your plant-based sources are going to come with a little bit of carbs. So that's something to keep in mind as you start tracking macros. You may notice, well, I just ate beef. Isn't that just protein? Well, no, beef is protein and fat. Or I just ate a bunch of lentil beans. Isn't that just protein? Well, no, lentil beans are protein and carbohydrate. So that's another learning curve. That's something you'll learn, is what foods are leaner and what foods are fattier or more carbier. All right, so I'm gonna get into the best sources of protein. I'll talk about animal products first, because animal products are the most potent or the most concentrated forms of protein. So as long as you're not vegetarian or vegan, you wanna make sure you are including meat in your diet 2 or 3 times a day to really help you boost up that protein. Now this could be anything from chicken to beef to pork to deer meat, venison, turkey, any sort of meat. There's no wrong answers. There's no bad meat. So don't be afraid to eat a burger. Don't be afraid to eat a steak. Those are fattier cuts of meat, but that's perfectly fine. So of course, chicken breast, and you can cook this, as you know, tons of different ways. There's always chicken breast recipes in the Faster Way meal plan. You can Google it, Pinterest it, but you know about chicken breast. That's a very common one. What I like to do is put it in my Instant Pot, or you can boil it and then shred it in with the KitchenAid mixer. Takes about 30 seconds, and then you can have a giant tub of shredded chicken. And I do that once a week. I probably make 4 to 6 chicken breasts like that. So I just have a big Tupperware container full of shredded chicken, and I can put sauces or spices on that and add it to my salads or wraps throughout the week. So chicken is a great one to prepare ahead of time and cook a lot at once. That's another tip, I guess, is to batch cook. So when you're preparing your proteins especially, if you can cook double or triple what you need for that meal, and then you can just heat it up throughout the week. Another staple for me is ground beef, and you can get leaner cuts of ground beef, or you can get fattier cuts. I personally just get whatever's cheapest at this point. You can go for grass-fed ground beef, locally sourced, or grocery store ground beef. There's not a huge difference in terms of nutrition. So with the ground beef, I always make a bunch of taco meat every week. My kids will eat taco meat all week. I'll eat it on my low-carb days because beef is fattier, so it's great for low-carb days. And my husband will eat it for his lunches throughout the week. But you could also do things like a meatloaf, spaghetti sauce with meat in it, meatballs, all sorts of things. All right, things like bacon, sausages, chicken sausages, those are great. Those are gonna be especially good for low-carb days because pork is one of those protein sources that has a lot of protein, but it also has a good amount of fat. So pork and beef are gonna be really great for your low-carb days, while chicken and turkey are gonna be great for your higher carb days, which we're not worried about right now, but we will get into that next week. Burgers, these are really a quick, easy, simple solution to a dinner or a lunch. Throw them on the grill, broil them in your oven. No, we're not gonna do that. You're gonna make a mess. All right, also ground turkey. I do make a lot of ground turkey. I will just ground it all up at one time, just like I do with the ground beef. And then I will have this on my regular macro days. Let's see, even hot dogs. So I know hot dogs are processed meat, not the best quality meats, but if you need something quick and easy on a busy night, stick it in the oven and broil it or boil it or whatever you want to do. It's still a protein source. Of course, I do want you to make sure you're getting an all beef hot dog. You can get the best quality you can find at whatever store you go to. Applegate Farms makes a really good organic grass-fed hot dog. So that about does it on the animal side. Of course, dairy also has a good amount of protein. things like yogurt. However, we are trying to stay away from dairy for this 6 weeks. That's a choice that's up to you. I highly recommend that you stay away from dairy at least for 2 weeks just to see if it bothers you, because a lot of times if you've had dairy in your diet your whole life, you may not realize that it's the source of your constipation or your headaches or your joint pain. So cutting it out for just a couple weeks will help you see if you have any symptoms that go away. What's up?
No, mine.
Okay. Okay, plant-based sources of proteins, and I unfortunately don't have any to show you because I personally just don't like these foods, so I don't have them in my house. But if you like them, then have at it. So things like black beans and lentils are going to be pretty high plant-based sources of protein. Now, they're still going to be about half as protein dense as animal products, as meat, so take that into consideration. Meat's always going to be your dense source of protein, but if you need some extra protein, think about black beans, lentils, hemp seeds, peas, chickpeas. Anything in that bean and pea family has a higher amount of protein than most other plants. You also have to realize that it does have a lot of carbs. So make sure if you're doing this for your protein, save it for your higher carb days rather than your low carb days. And also just keep in mind that it's not just protein, it's a good amount of carbs as well. So one more for the animal sources of proteins are eggs and egg whites. Now, as far as protein supplements, because especially at first, it can be really hard to hit your protein goal. If you have a protein goal of 100 grams of protein, but you're only used to eating 30 or 40 grams of protein, that's gonna be really difficult for the first week or two getting used to eating more protein. So you can incorporate a protein powder. This is a vegan protein powder. This one's from Target, but there are plenty on Amazon if you look up a vegan protein powder. So this means it doesn't contain dairy. This is a plant-based protein powder.
Mama.
So it's mostly pea protein and brown rice protein.
Mom.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Mommy.
What? Say hi.
Hi.
Okay. So if you would like to incorporate a protein powder, this can add an extra 20 to 30 grams of protein to your day without you having to prepare it, chew it, swallow it, because you might get a little bit tired of protein until you get used to it. Okay? What? If you're not going dairy free, you could get a whey protein. They are usually a little bit cheaper to get whey. This would be animal based. It's derived from milk. Another thing you could use is called collagen peptides. This will give you an extra boost of protein. It'll give you about 20 grams per serving. It's also good for your hair, nails, skin, things like that. So this is collagen peptides. You can get this from Target or Amazon. There's different brands you can choose from. Now, if you have a histamine intolerance, you don't want to do collagen because that can cause a flare-up. All right, so those are some of my typical protein sources that I keep on hand. Other things, for more convenience sake, you could do beef jerky. You could just have some beef jerky on hand for snacking in the car or at work or a road trip or whatever. Beef jerky is going to give you protein. Deli meat, I do like to have deli meat. I don't have any right now to show you, but turkey, chicken, that's going to be great. Straight up protein, very little fat, no carbs. So chicken and turkey I always have on hand just to kind of eat throughout the day to increase my protein intake. You can put them on salads, you can put them on a wrap. Salami, pepperoni, ham, those are great as well. Those are going to have higher fats. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So any sort of deli meat is going to be a really easy, convenient way to increase that protein. And then rotisserie chickens, those are always easy. If you're in a hurry coming home and you're not able to cook dinner or you just don't want to cook dinner, just stop in, get a couple rotisserie chickens, tear the meat off of that, and then you can even have leftovers to put on salads and stuff for the rest of the week. So protein's a pretty straightforward one. It's basically animal sources. Meat is gonna be your best bet. So think about that when you think about protein. Think about choosing what kind of meats you wanna have throughout the week. So each meal should have a protein source, because in order to meet your protein goal each day, you're gonna need to make sure you're having a little bit of protein all throughout the day at each meal and a few snacks. So I feel like I'm babbling here. I don't think I have anything left to say. I'll just keep talking in circles if I stay on here. If you have any questions, comment it down below. Tell me what is your most typical protein source. Do y'all eat a lot of chicken? Do you eat a lot of beef, steaks? Tell me what's your most common protein source at the moment. All right, I'm gonna sign off. What are you doing?
Hugging you.
Oh, thank you. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Yeah, the rest of the week we will talk about carbs and fat.